The question posed by Brother Said from Frankfurt, from Germany, is that he cannot afford to buy a house, it's very expensive, so can he take a loan? No one is even clear that answer. As far as taking loan from a conventional bank, which involves interest, which involves riba, it is totally haram, it is prohibited. There are no less than 8 places in the Quran where Allah uses the word riba, and it's clearly mentioned as haram. Allah also says in the Quran in Surah Baqarah chapter number 2 verse number 278 and 279 that give up your demands of riba. And if you give up not your demands of riba, take notice of a vow from Allah and His Rasul. That means if you involve yourself in giving or taking of riba, or giving or taking of interest, Allah says in the Quran, Allah and His Rasul will wage a war against you. And no human being in the world can face the Prophet or Allah when they wage a war against you. So but naturally it's haram, and it is the 12th major sin. According to Imam Madhabi, when he writes in his book, the Kabair, the major sins, he puts riba, interest, as the 12th major sin. Yes, you can take a loan from Islamic bank. In Islamic bank, they give you a loan, and they don't give you loan on riba or interest, but they give you loan on Islamic principles which are approved by the Sharia. And there may be a service charge in facilitating the loan, and this is as per Sharia law. It is not fixed depending upon the time you take and the percentage of what you take. It is on Islamic Sharia principles. So you can very well take loan from Islamic bank, which is not taking riba but taking service charge based on Islamic principles, or you can take from Islamic organization which gives interest-free loan. So the option that you have is taking from a conventional bank which charges interest is haram, but you can very well take from Islamic bank. So if you have a Turkish Islamic bank, very good, they are charging 2.5%, very good, you can easily afford it, it is halal, you can go ahead. Or if there are Islamic organizations, there are some Islamic organizations which do give loans for buying houses interest-free, absolutely without interest. You can return in installments. You can take facility of that loan if it's available in Germany or any other part. Taking from Islamic bank is haram, is perfectly allowed. Taking from Islamic bank is perfectly halal, but taking from a conventional bank dealing with riba is prohibited.
Issues of purchasing one's own home. What was done in Canada, where I grew up, was that Muslims formed an association, a housing association, where the members of that association all contributed a certain amount monthly into a fund. And they then drew by straws who would get the first house. When the amount of money reached sufficient to get a house, then the person who was first in the list, they got the house. But the house remained in the name of the cooperative until everybody received their house. So what it's saying is that this situation forced Muslims to come and to work together. You couldn't, the only way to do it on your own was to go to the bank and get the mortgage. And this was haram. So the alternative is that the Muslim community work together and develop the alternatives. And that is the proper way, as opposed to just saying, well, you know, I cannot afford it, so therefore I'm going to the bank. No. You sacrifice, even if it means half of your salary is going to rent. At the end of the year, you don't have a place, but you have to know that if you're paying half of your salary in rent, that every kroner that you pay is blessed by Allah. That's what you have to be certain of, because you're paying it to avoid going into riba, going into interest. So know that every kroner is blessed by Allah. Whereas if you do the mortgage, know that every kroner you pay is cursed by Allah. So though you may end up with a home, but it is a cursed home. As the Prophet ﷺ had said about the man on the journey who dust in his hair, falls on his knees, raises his hands, prays to Allah. But the Prophet ﷺ said, how is Allah going to answer his prayer when the food that he is eating is haram? The money that he has earned is haram. The flesh that has grown on his body has grown from haram. How is Allah going to answer his prayers? So that is the bottom line. We should know that. Even though that person was on a journey, and we know that's the best time to make dua, isn't it? He raises his hands. That's one of the correct actions in making dua. But his dua was rejected because his food, his earnings were haram. So my advice, as I said, for the community to come together, create that association. We did it in Canada. You can do it here. But it requires effort, sacrifice, commitment. But it can be done.